All right, we will call to order the February 16th, 2023 Board of Directors meeting for Whatcom Transit Authority. Start off with item B, a roll call.
Yes, Davidson.
Here.
Donovan.
Present.
Hawkinson.
Here.
Huthman.
Here.
Cortice.
Here.
Lautenbach.
Here.
Darwin.
Present.
And we have Fleetwood, Lilyquist, and Sadhu absent. Thank you.
Great. All right, on to item C, citizen communications. Have we had anything sent in? Is there anyone in person?
Nothing has been sent in.
All right, is there anyone on the call that would like to unmute and make a statement? Doesn't appear so. All right, moving right along. Item D. We will now hold a closed session under RCW 42.30.144B for the purpose of a collective bargaining update. We expect this to take about 15 minutes. No action will be taken during the closed session. All right.
All right, I'll go ahead and send you all over to the closed room, and then I'll stay here with everyone else.
Thank you.
Thanks, Audra.
If I get a message that it's going to be longer than 15 minutes, I'll come back and give you all an update. Thanks.
Thanks, Audra.
Sure.
All right, let's see.
We are waiting on Scott to come back over. I sent him a link on his.
We'll give him a second. We still have quorum without him. All right, should we just continue on? I'm sure Scott will join us again if he can.
And here he is.
Oh, there he is. Great.
Perfect timing.
All right, on to item F, consent agenda. Consideration of approval of the January expenditures and consideration of approval of minutes of our February 2nd meeting. Questions, comments, motion?
I'll move approval.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? I think everyone was affirmative. I'm not sure if we heard from Scott or not. All right. Now reports to the board. 2022 work plan update. Les?
Ellie, could we go back to the E1, the resolution?
No, we're skipping that. Just kidding.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right, going back to item E.
Course, but
I guess that's how the alphabet works. All right. Consideration of resolution number 340-23, delegating certain authority to the general manager and adopting an administrative authority policy directive for such delegated authority. Les and Mark.
Thank you, Ellie. So Mark Lee is on as well. Mark worked very hard on this and drafted this and made sure that we're staying within the left and right limits of the law. The purpose on this, for background, is this doesn't create any new authorities or do anything different than what we're already doing. But it does clarify administrative authorities that come. So for example, on the petty cash, do we need to bring $250 petty cash thing to the board? Under this, it would be no, that's as long as there's rules, go ahead and do that administratively. So the intent of this was to take these various authorities that exist but are in different documents and things and try to pull them into one, so that when we're looking at the governance of WTA, we've got the Public Benefit Transportation Authority law, then we've got the WTA bylaws, and then we have this, and we can kind of piece these together so we can see how they work, and it's a good starting spot for anybody to understand what the governance is here. So again, this doesn't change anything on what's already being done, but it just tries to pull all these things into one location. And then kind of with the bylaws and what it says there for the general manager, it's kind of the natural implementation of the bylaw section on that. So some of the highlights on here, Exhibit A is really where the substance is. The background intent of this would be that we would add this to kind of the housekeeping things that we do each year with the board. So there would be an ability to check back in, which hopefully then helps as well with the governance discussion on things and making sure we're operating well. And then also for things make it clear, like for audit, where things are, where the authorities fall, and those kinds of things. So the Exhibit A, the way it's organized, there's a general grant which talks about how it's subject to the laws and rules and regulations and so forth. So that it lays that out, and then goes through various things that would happen throughout the year in operating. So for example, real property use agreements, those are board to be approved, but then there's certain day-to-day things that are delegated to the general manager to do, like enforcement of the lease and those things, which would be board approved, or if the lease includes an extension, for example, that then I could extend it for that period of time. So the other things, sale, purchase and sale, obviously up to the board, but it details some of the administrative things on that. So like I need to, for selling property, make the recommendation on surplus, board would approve surplus, and then we could negotiate some things and then bring it back to the board for the board's approval. We add in there about relating, there's a statute on low use of property for low income housing, trying to clarify and make sure that that's accurate. Then going through a number of the contracting type things, public works, A&E, architect and engineering, the acquisition of utilities, equipment, those kinds of things. On the contracting, it codifies that $150,000 is the level of my authority. So the policy, purchasing policy and things would be for 150, under, over would come back to the board as we've done. Talks about, codifies some of the things about like waiving competitive bidding, like in an emergency situation. Codifies what the practice has been into that, and coordinates that with state law on that. And then some of the other things just in there about banking services and the impressed working for funds would be like the petty cash, for example, those kinds of things. One of the other big things that is on there is the change orders and how that would work on each of the contracts, and what my authority would be to administratively move it forward, including any time extensions on that. So it really just kind of codifies what those practices are. It makes it very clear for us as staff implementing, and then for the board to know, and then for in the future new board members or the public to understand what that governance is. It's very clear and easy, and it's adopted each year by the board by resolution. So I will pause there and ask Mark if there's anything you'd like to add.
No, I don't think so. I think you summed it up. As you've noted, it's just an attempt to kind of set out the authority that LES or any GM has as allowed by law. I think it's consistent with the practices you've been doing. It's just really set out in a single document and outlines all the authority.
Thanks, Mark. And thanks for your effort there, Shonda, Megan, and others in this room who put time and energy into helping put this together.
All right,
I'll
discussion.
pause for questions.
I got a question. So if this isn't, I'm trying to understand the need for this. If it's not creating any new authority, it's just putting everything in one document. But like the section 5 on real property agreements. So most of this is about the general manager, but that one just says under RCW, blah, 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 WTA is authorized to transfer and lease surplus property. Is that giving the general manager that, or is it shouting that out as that something the general manager can do? You could already do that.
No,
No,
if I can, anything to do with real property, the sale or lease or purchase of real property has to be approved by the board. But there's all kinds of fundamental things that happen beforehand that the board doesn't need to get involved with. Getting appraisals, getting reports, having surveys done, all that kind of work is set out in this document that is within the authority of the GM to do that groundwork on the sale, purchase, or lease of property. But the ultimate decision as to whether to sell, lease, or purchase property remains with the board.
Thanks.
All right, further discussion. And we're looking for a motion, yes?
please.
So moved.
All right, moved by Eric. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, moving a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of resolution 340-23, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, unanimous. Now can I go to reports of the board?
Thank you.
All right, item G, reports to the board, 2022 work plan update. Les.
Yes, Josh will kindly pull up the document. The intent of this was to take what our work plan was last year, 2022. It's organized based on our mission of delivering safe, reliable, efficient, friendly service, of environmentally sound transportation choices, of partnerships and innovation, and trying to tie together what those big ticket work plan items were and where things are with it. Talk about it today, and then if there are additions or things the board would like to see added to, we'll add, and then send it out to the board. But going under our first mission bullet on delivering safe, reliable, efficient, friendly service, big ticket items on that, the hiring and retention. And what you'll see on the back of this document is first, second, third, and fourth quarter accomplishments. And so that gives some granularity into where hiring is, for example, by quarter and things. So you can see a little more detail on where that was going. But things are ongoing. The market remains a challenge, as everybody knows, on hiring. But nevertheless, so while pool of applicants may shrink some, the numbers we're still able to hit without compromising quality at this point. There have been a couple jobs where we've had to go back out. The capital or the construction management position, for example, has proven to be a little challenging. Trying to find the right qualification or qualified person on that. So that continues, but while we're undermanned on transit operators, we continue to do that and continue to try to push through the appropriate numbers. But it hasn't affected service per se yet on that, so we're able to still do that. And if anybody has anything to add to any of these things, please weigh in. One of the other things for 22 is changing the mindset, moving through a COVID response so that we're able to still continue to provide service. We saw last fall and into the early winter, there was a surge, but we were able to make it through on that. Not that it was easy, but made it through. And one of the other goals under kind of general organizational at the end was trying to change the mindset from a pandemic mindset where it was kind of more lockdown kind of things to how do we try to change that into an endemic pervasive way that we move forward. So we started back opening some of the things back up, some like a safety breakfast, for example. We did the rodeo last year, some in-person things as we were moving forward on that, and saw that we're able to do that, and we'll continue that process into 23. State of good repair continues on. Folks do a great job, particularly down in the fleet and facility group. There are some challenges. We're seeing building space shortage for growing operations out in the field. Vandalism continues to be a problem with shelters getting blown out and having folks kick out windows or shoot out windows, those kinds of things. And then, of course, as everybody's seeing, the supply chain remains a challenge going forward. As we've talked about, as we've been doing our budgeting, kind of from a strategic standpoint, we've got our preparatory phase and then leading into the capital phase, and just kind of setting the groundwork for that. So we're working on the midway and the north lot on what to do with that. Some of the challenges have been the difficulty in the construction manager position, and then making sure that our organization is designed to implement those kinds of construction things into the future. We're designed very well to put service on the street, but then those added on things become difficult as capacity and capabilities are stretched on that. But it's a challenge we're working through. Some of the other big things, Jeff got in the updated agency safety plan in accordance with I guess it was the IIJA, changed some of the things on that. Jeff was able to get through that. Had a discussion last year on the fair structure and policy. Board said bring that back in 23 with a little more. So Tim's team and the fair policy group is working on that with Tammy and others working through on that. On the environmental side, as you know, we continue to work on, we'll have a briefing to the board on the sustainability plan, the large subsection of that, if you will, zero emission fleet transition. So that continues to move forward. We have some challenges on that moving forward into the future that have detailed, but we'll continue to work through those. Some of those challenges are synchronizing and transitioning assets, infrastructure, financing for large capital projects on that, understanding the market technology, what's out there, the lengthy build times and supply chain, and how do we work through those things. But continue to work through on that. Last year, received the Low-No grants for 8 buses, electric buses, and then the congressionally delegated spending for the difference between a diesel bus and electric bus for three other buses. So that's where that one is. Next page, Josh. Please. And please, if there are questions throughout, please feel free. Continuing to support the City of Bellingham and Whatcom County climate initiatives, which was one of the things to go. You can see some of the things there. The Cordata charging station, which back to the capital part is having some of the those challenges occur to it on supply chain and other things on that, but continuing to work on those things as you can see on the installing the charging station on that. Moving into the innovative transportation solutions, continue to do things in an innovative manner, but we haven't set up the innovative program team yet because of capacity issues to figure out the charter and how that implements and those kinds of things. But still working through the innovation on how we operate on each of these individual projects. So some of the things like the sustainability plan, WTA 2040, those things looking for innovation to drive productivity and efficiency and better ways of doing things. Also looking at that from a way of, as we talked about, one of the challenges is building the capacity and capability. If we can innovatively think on ways to do things that frees up efficiencies, that builds capacity to do other things that fit the transformational things we're trying to do. One of those innovative things was the Transit Access Fund that, as the board know, you awarded last year 2 of our pilot projects to the city of Nooksack Valley and the Lummi Nation. So that we'll see how that goes this year, but feel like that was a success on that. And again, leveraging our money to help solve transit issues with the partnership and cooperation of the locality to identify what they need that then helps. So, for example, sidewalks in the Nooksack Valley to get to the transit stop, which then also helps the safe school program, so you can get to the schools and the parks and come together to leverage those funds to help accomplish this. The countywide radio system continues. We hope to be able to come back to the board next month with the interlocal on that. Linden Hop continues with the demand performance, as you'll see in the quarterlies. There's demand, so expanded service on weekends on that to keep that meeting the demand. So continue with that, and then, as you know, this year is the year where we study the effectiveness of that and see about scoping and scaling. Into partnering aspects of things, the legislative program that the board authorized, I think in the first year was very successful in securing the LONO grant and the congressional directed spending request. So that's potentially 11 electric buses there that were helpful, plus the advice that they provide us and being able to help, like, for example, on grants, are we truly eligible for a transit-oriented development planning grant, for example? They're able to help us figure that out by actually talking to the folks directly to see, okay, where are you eligible? How does that work? What does it look like? And then help us with those grant writing things. And that's just in the grant side of things. There's other things they help us with too, from purchasing and Build America questions and things of that nature. Strategic communications planning, continue with that. We've had an increased outreach and social media presence. As you'll see, we participated in 15 community events throughout the summer last year, increasing social media outreach on what's going on. Maureen and Genevieve and the operations crew, we have some operators and others on doing a youth ride free and a respect the ride program on for targeting on youths on how to ride and what to do and things of that nature to generate more ridership. Partnering with local cities, have a number of things that show up there with Bellingham on a speed and reliability study, bike ped planning that's going on there. Telegraph Road, we'll see, because they have a capacity issue on that, but we have an interlocal we authorized last year with that. Cordata Station on that. City of Linden, some letters of support on projects, working on that. Linden Hop, looking at the Linden Park and Ride and better, higher, best uses for that. Blaine, talking on the land use interlocal and service redesign in Birch Bay, Blaine County, and other cities on transit demands, service reviews, looking at housing and so forth. So partnering continues to increase on that, which again, as we've talked about, kind of crossing those silos, working together cooperatively across silos to try to solve complex societal problems, and what transit can bring to that to help solve those. So that's been a big and good emphasis last year, continuing into this year. So the other things have looked at on the organizational side, Obviously, financial sustainability, we've got quarterly board reviews. We've got the designated reserves that we're working with the board on these transformational things and how we spend those over time in a responsible way going forward. Stood up the safety manager position last year with Jeff to better get after a risk assessment on that, which led us to on the security program for this year to do that, but helping with that and integrating a risk-based approach to decision making. Board reviewed the executive committee structure for efficiency and effectiveness, and altered to the 2 board meetings a year last year. Big thing, adopted 2040, and as Tim talked to us about last time, see where we are in the implementation stage going forward on that. A remote work policy was on the list. That's something that we're continuing to work through because there's a lot of uncertainty on best practices and how that looks like and how it implements and so forth. So continuing to work on that. Talked a little bit earlier. One of the things was listed from last year on the organizational side was shifting that pandemic to endemic mindset. And so had the first safety breakfast in 3 years. Did the rodeo for the first time in a couple of years. Family trick or treat here in person, which was super fun. Harvest Festival. Participated downtown in the trick or treat downtown Bellingham with the bus. So a number of things coming back and shifting to that'll continue into this year. And then certainly not finally, because it's super important, but the cybersecurity framework. Josh and his team put together a great framework on what we do as far as annual trainings, updated trainings, testing, exercises throughout the year on that to maintain our best practices, including an annual review of everything we do with our insurer on what does that look like, what are those best practices, and amending. And so Josh's team leads that, but everybody throughout the organization takes ownership in cybersecurity and how we operate on that. It's which is why it's under the organizational thing. Josh's team leads, but it's an organizational thing that we all need to do. And I think that was complete for 22, but it's ongoing and a enduring thing that we need to do. So I will, I'll pause there, and when the document comes out, you'll see the accomplishments by quarter, which that adds, like I said, a little granularity on how many people were hired, for example, on that. So you can kind of see the theme on that. You can kind of see the shift from pandemic to endemic and quarterly, how things started coming on. We start doing the rodeo, for example, and the Halloween and Christmas or holiday celebrations and so forth. So with that, I will pause for questions, comments, concerns.
Anyone?
Don't see any hands. So what I'll do is I will go ahead and send this out to the board. And is it, I'm guessing with no questions, the format looks okay, and we'll send it out today.
Great, thank you. All right, moving on to item G2, general manager's report.
Just one thing, since the last one, we have our, this kind of goes to what we just talked about, but our zero emission fleet transition study in March, we want to bring to the board. We have 2 board meetings, one on the 2nd and one on the 16th. We can move some things around on the 16th to have a half hour, 40 minutes of discussion on that. I'm not sure whether that's sufficient. There's a lot of information to talk about on that. So the options are, do we do that and continue it into April? Do we do a special meeting? And so I was kind of curious what the board's thought was on if we do a special meeting that would be an hour dedicated solely to the zero emission fleet transition. We'd shoot for that to be sometime after the 16th for the board. But I wanted to check before I made any sort of assumptions.
I think a special meeting would be better, just because once you start a conversation, it's hard to break it off. You know, if you're in a time limit and continue kind of that momentum in a different meeting.
And there is a lot of information in it, as the periodic ones you've seen.
I agree.
Okay. If there's no objection, then we'll look for a date after the 16th for a special meeting. So you'll, okay, I see Scott said special meeting would be good as well. So, okay, when I say we, Vicky, we'll take that for action. Thank you very much. That's the only thing I had.
All right, looks like no other business or announcements. Anything else before we adjourn?
Nothing from staff.
All right. See everyone next time.